We have already used probability plots under the graph tab. So if I go to my graph, probability plot, I have a single set of data here, those bursting strength data, and indicate what the data are, say OK, and the default is that Minitab will perform a test to see whether or not these data follow a normal distribution. And the test that's used when you ask for a probability plot is this thing called the Anderson-Darling. That's what this AD is here. You get a test statistic that we are not going to get into how you calculate, and we're interested in the p-value. And really we want to know whether or not this p-value is less than 0.05, in which case these data would be considered to be non-normal. And if your p-value is greater than 0.05, or certainly greater than 0.1, we would consider them to be quite normal. Now, based on the Anderson-Darling, this p-value is telling me that these data do not follow a normal distribution, although the p-value is pretty close to that cutoff of 0.05. And I can see that my data points, for the most part, fall within those outer red bands, but they're kind of weird. You know, they got this kind of a, I don't know, there's sort of an S shape to them. Alright, there is another test that you can run in Minitab that's sometimes used, particularly when you have small data sets. And in order to access that one, you're under the Stat tab, Basic Statistics, and third one from the bottom says Normality Test. You give it the data, in this case it's the bursting strength, and the default again is that it will do the Anderson-Darling, but this one here called the Ryan-Joyner is, as your notes say, it's a little bit more liberal in its judgment of normality, and it is useful for small data sets. So I've clicked this one on here, and I can say OK, and the plot is more or less the same as what we get out of the probability plot. The only difference is we don't get those 95% confidence interval bands, so I just get the straight line. And if these data were normal, yeah, they would fall along this red line. Right here I see an RJ, so I know it's performed the Ryan-Joyner test. And this time it gives me a p-value greater than 0.1. So based on the Ryan-Joyner test, we would say that these data are fairly normal. So this one is a little bit more liberal. The other thing that you can do in this one, if I go back to this to my last dialog box, I can get it to show percentile lines, and that comes right up here. And I might want to show, as in this case, we're trying to figure out standard deviation, and you can do that by taking the 84th and your 50th percentile. So I want it to show me the 84th and the 50th percentile. Say OK, and now I can see my 84th percentile is 295.9. My 50th percentile is 264.1. And so that's a nice little feature of this particular window.